What up, Wizards? It's Dev from The Place, and today we're going to do the real one. We've already done the top 10 sleepers in Avatar, the top 10 commander cards too, and we got to goof around for those a little bit, but today we got to put our spy cats on and do one for serious people, and there are cards for serious people in Avatar for sure, so let's take a look at them. Top 10 competitive cards in the Aang set.
And I'm your favorite Magic Channel's favorite Magic Channel. Best believe that the professor go bananas for my deck tech.
And we're back with the honorable mentions where I get to keep goofing around just a little bit. Let me have my fun. Thank you very much. Even if just for a second I get to talk about cards like Enter the Avatar State because it's my last chance to bring this card up and I think it's really good. Flying, First Strike, Lifelink, and Hexproof at instant speed for 1 mana. You guys remember when Boros Mice was a deck? Thing would have been a monster in that deck. Cheese jokes because mice. I think it could go pretty well in a variety of different decks. That's a gang of really good abilities all at the same time. Even if it only lasts one turn, it could still really switch the game around. So I like this thing, but I also want to bring up Shared Roots here for a second. It's rampant growth in Standard, which they were so like scared to print back into Standard for years and years. And now they're like, I just have a better version because it's a lesson and there's a bunch of stuff that really cares about lessons in the set. So have it now. The ramp has been crazy lately. We got the Soul Stone in the last set. We got this in this set. There's an even better card way down the list that is an even better 2-mana guy that creates mana than this. We got the dork of all dorks in this set. We'll talk about him later, but it really makes stuff like Rampant Growth not even look as good as it should be, but I still think the card is playable in Standard. Probably the worst card on the whole list, but again, it's honorable mentions, and I get to bring this up if I want to, is the card that I'm most excited about from the entire set. It's Cat Gator. His card is not good, and it's not even a cat, which is kind of lame, but I think it still goes in the cat cube. Let me know how you feel about that. Cat Gator, not a cat. Does it go in the cat cube? I'm very interested in your thoughts on that subject, but still, this is just like a corrupt effect of sorts on a body so that you can blink it, you can reanimate it, you can bounce it and play it again and just have the time of your girl life. Like, I just think that this could be a super, super fun card to mess around with. Yeah, in Commander, but this isn't a video about Commander. I'm playing Standard, and I still want to play this card. So, big fan of this thing. It's my favorite card in the whole set. It sucks, but whatever. I wanted to bring it up. But hey, let's calm down just a little bit. We're getting slightly too goofy in here. Let's move on to the main list where we got to talk like we know what we're talking about. Let's first look at Sokka, Bold Boomeranger. Something no one ever said. Let's get serious. Talk about Sokka. Maybe a couple of people. He's got an arc, but either way, this guy is not as good as he would have been like a week and a half ago. Let me just throw that out there. He was like number 4 on my list. Took a big nosedive in playability because not only did Vivi get banned, which I guess he could have gone in that deck, but more importantly, Prof's Eidetic Memory got banned. And that really sucks for Sox because there was already a deck kind of tearing through MTGO League that was Is It without the Vivi, without the Soul Cauldron. You just play like Marauding Mako, Fear of Missing Out, Steam Core Scholar, Tersa Light Shatter, all the stuff that discards cards and draws cards or cares about you discarding stuff. Like Marauding Mako gets bigger when you pitch stuff. So that deck was already like really good, but Profs was like the main engine of that deck. So that card getting banned, it's rough, buddy. That's all I got to say for a card like Sokka. Sokka's Staka really plummeted just a few days ago, but I still think this is a playable card in Standard. Not only if that deck continues to kind of soldier on, maybe we'll actually play Monument to Endurance. It wasn't playing it before. So maybe we'll throw that thing in and see if it works out. But either way, maybe it's good in that deck. Maybe it's good in some sort of Reanimator pile like Grixis Arden. Could be okay in there. Still a good card on rate. Cares about lessons, so may end up in lessons decks if those are a thing. Gets larger when you play artifacts, so maybe some sort of Pinnacle Emissary deck. There's a lot of places for Sokka to go. So even though it may not be the quenchiest, it'll still quench you in a deck or two here and there. Let's move on here. I could talk about Sokka all day. He's a nice guy, but we got to make space for other cards. So number 9 is Suki, Courageous Rescuer. I don't think this thing is quite being taken seriously enough in Standard. A card that I like to compare this to is Sanguine Evangelist, but there are a number of important differences. This can technically output more tokens over a game than an Evangelist can, and it doesn't have to die to do so, but the tokens don't fly. So whatever, right? Another big difference is that this is Legendary, Evangelist isn't. That's kind of a thing, but as far as the stat line goes, this just blows Evangelist out of the water, and you don't have to attack with a fragile creature like Evangelist that you're only going to get the battle cry on like one time, you know. This, you just have the battle cry online all the time, don't have to attack with it, just sit back and poop out dudes, like make tokens or whatever. So I kind of like a lot about this, and I think it's the greatest like top end for maybe a War Leader's Call deck that we have available in Standard right now. But just for any regular old like white or white X like Boros aggro deck, I think this could be a fantastic 3-drop, even with all the competition it has in Standard. Now my number 8 is Earthbender Ascension. This is the one that I think is good in Standard. I mean, I guess you could make a case for some of the other ones, but I really like this one in our format, baby. This has already been proven to be a decent effect on a number of cards. A 3-mana green creature that puts a body into play and goes and searches a basic land, puts it into play tapped. Almost always playable on some level, but this one pays you back later in that it gives you a bunch of +1/+1 counters and trample ability, which is always good at the point in the game that you're going to hit this. Could also plug directly into the Tifa/Mossborn Hydra deck, because even though those creatures don't need the trample this ends up providing, they love the +1/+1 counters, and you're already playing landfall anyway. And there's sneaky landfall on this card, as a few people have already discussed. When the land dies or gets put into exile, whatever, it'll come back into play. The Earthbent land will come back into play, thus triggering landfall again, which is always a fun thing to be able to do. So I don't know, there's a lot of good stuff about this, so it just slots directly into a decent deck in Standard right now, but I think in some mid-range piles this could have a lot to do as well. Let's move on to number 7 here, which is Aang at the Crossroads, Crossroads, Crossroads. I just think this card is a bomb in Standard. It doesn't really have a home right now, but more than any other card on the list, I think this might be capable of creating its own home, you know, carving out its own niche for itself, making a whole new deck in Standard, a kind of Bant mid-range pile or something, because there are a lot of really good options to grab off of this when it comes into play. 5 mana looks like a lot for a 3/3, but not only do you get that value, but you get the best thing off the top of your library, given that it doesn't cost too much mana. So in this kind of deck, that could be a Biza. That could be too bad. It could be an Enduring Curiosity, which would also be great. There's a ton of creatures you can nab with an Aang and make it feel like it was worth it to pay 5 mana for this. At that point, you can also blink this or bounce this or whatever you're doing. Most likely blink it and airbend it, play it again, and then get this again. So this is a crazy the battlefield trigger, but at any point in the game, once he's down, if one of your dudes dies, then you get to flip this over into a 4/4 flyer that gives you a 2/2 every turn in the form of airbending, or earthbending rather. So that's also nuts. That is pretty good, man. Like, you kill any one of my dudes, I get a 4/4 flyer is already good enough. But the extra earth bending is also going to overwhelm a lot of people. Like, just a classic mid-range card in a lot of ways that provides pretty intense value when it comes into play. And then as the game goes on and you just play Magic, it gets even more powerful and starts piling on, board presence. So just a wacky Magic card that, again, may look a little expensive for Standard, but has, the value when it comes into play. So even if it does die, you still got that value. And if your opponent doesn't have the removal spell, it completely takes over the game. So I think this has all the hallmarks of a very Standard playable card, even in the modern day. But number 6 is a card that I am sure to mispronounce. I've been working on my avatar pronunciations. I think I'm getting a little bit better, but I'm probably going to screw up Agna Qel'a. Agna Qel'a? I don't know much about Avatar, but I know a lot about Magic. Well, I know some stuff about Magic. You tap lands for mana. One of the colors is purple, right? Either way, much as little as I know about Magic, I know this is a pretty good Magic card, especially in a format like Standard, but maybe even beyond. We got some pretty good looking lands in this set, especially in this particular cycle. We got, green one that earth bends sometimes. That doesn't seem too bad. We got a red one that actually can generate more than 1 mana in the right situation through firebending and stuff. That one also looks crazy, and it's probably going to show up in Standard decks for sure, but I am most scared of this one. There's already a blue-white and a Jeskai control deck in Standard right now, and blink and there's going to be an Esper one. They're really kind of multiplying at this point. I figured that we would, after Vivi get banned, Vivi got banned, we would do like mid-range for a minute, but no, we just skip straight to control, it seems. So there's already a number of control decks in Standard that could leverage this in a number of ways, and I'm kind of scared of that just being in their mana base. But for what it's worth, this could also go in those like blue-red discard decks that I was talking about earlier with the Marauding Makos and stuff like that, because it's a way to force a discard on your lands. If you have nothing better to do that turn, you can do this. Also pretty good in Reanimator and could revive the Solar Flare archetype, something I have to bring up every 2.5 seasons. I feel like it's tapered off a good bit, but Solar Flare is kind of a hybrid Reanimator / control deck I used to love back in the day. And whenever I see stuff like this, I wonder, is it possible? But one way or the other, this card is going to show up in the control decks, if nothing else. That's a pretty scary prospect. Them having another, if not card advantage, and at least card filtering tool to make sure they always have the perfect hand. Something I'm not necessarily looking forward to, but I acknowledge the power level of. We're halfway down the list. Let's look at number 5, which is Zhao, the Moon Slayer. It sounds like he's got pretty cool lore. You killed the moon. Why? First of all. Second of all, awesome. You're a bad dude. And third of all, how come? Again, with that question. Why'd you do that? I know there's like a lady in the moon, right? Isn't there like a lady trapped in the moon or something? So are you trying to free her or is she evil? I don't know at all. I should probably watch this show. It actually seems pretty cool. But let's talk about magic, which is something I know at least like 5% more about than I do Avatar: The Last Airbender. This is actually a really good looking magic card. I shouldn't have to tell you. And the farther back you go, the better this looks, I think. In Pioneer, Modern, and again, Beyond is a great magic card where people play nothing but non-basics. But we're getting there in Standard. People playing very few basics, and most of the non-basics we play at least have a chance at coming to play untapped. Starting Town, Multiversal Passage, and especially Shocklands. We want to come into play untapped. And even a couple of other ones, and this will stop all of that nonsense. So it's Staxy, it's Taxi, Rack 'em Up, Baxter. Is that a thing? We make that a thing? Rack 'em Up, Baxter? No, we can't make that a thing. That sounds terrible. Sounded fun the first time, and the second time it instantly was horrible. But either way, I'm going to play with this card. Whether it's just a sideboard card in every format for mono red, I'm not sure. But I think this might be main deckable in most formats because it's going to trip a lot of opponents up. Just what a wild card. Doesn't look great for mono red in terms of stats, but that tax ability is just insane. And notice I haven't really mentioned the Blood Moon mode on this card yet because I really don't think the stat mode matters. I don't think you're going to get to that like most of the time. Will be really cool when you do, but I don't think that's really the main attraction on this. I think you're just trying to lay a tripwire down, and most opponents are going to fall flat on their face because of it. So enjoy that. You keep your tempo. They lose theirs. Usually a winning strategy. But let's move on to number 4 here, which is my Scornful Striker. This, man. I neglected to mention this in the Commander video, along with another card we'll get to in a second. And people had some things to say about that. But I actually think these are much stronger competitive cards than they are commander cards, especially in a lot of ways. This also feels like a taxi card, a bit like Zhao in some ways and a bit like Thalia in other ways, but rather than actually tripping up their tempo, you're just going to make them pay in blood for the things they want to do over there. So really just kind of has like ward pay to life, and so do all of your other creatures at this point, which I really like. But people are doing way more than just playing removal spells with their non-creatures. They're playing planeswalkers, enchantments, artifacts. These are all card types that see play, and a good amount of it in Standard. So you're making entire archetypes completely, pay 8 life to do the things they're trying to do, and that's going to add up real quick. And if you have to pay some life to play your removal, big deal. My 1-drop was Cecil. I'm trying to get down to 10 anyway. Joke's on you. So I think this card drops directly into mono black aggro day 1, but might actually see play in a number of other decks, whether it's like Golgari mid-range or what. We'll wait and see, but there's going to be plenty of creature-centric piles that want to punish opponents by playing this. And that's really all I can say about her. I wish I had more to say because I think she's obviously good, but that's kind of why I don't have more to say. I think this card's just going to see a good amount of play. I guess I like that it's in the same standard as Tiny Bones joins up. It's instantly the best black 2-drop legend you can play in that deck. There's some nuance to the card, but for the most part, it's just straightforwardly good. So let's move on to a card that requires a little bit more synergy, but I still think it's straightforwardly good. Capping off the top 3 here with Momo, Friendly Flyer. I am going batty over this thing. This is actually one of the first cards we got to see from this set months and months ago. It seriously feels like years ago that we got to see this card in our early previews for Avatar, and I've had my eye on it the entire time. There's a lot of lines in Standard with this bad boy right here. I can play this on 1, and then I guess double Deep Cavern Bat on turn 2. That's probably the most annoying potential line with this. But you can also play like Zorline on turn 2. You can play Steam Core Scholar on turn 2. Those are all good plays. Starting on turn 3, you can do the stupidest crap in the world. is not bad. You can play like a Quantum Riddler for a single mana with Warp on turn 2. That's probably got some sort of ramifications. And then you can play like Spyglass Siren or something to fill that turn out, hold up Spell Pierce. I don't know what you're into, but either way, later on in the game, you can play that Quantum Riddler to the table again on turn 4. This is basically a Llanowar Elves for flyers that also gets to attack for 2 mana. A 1 mana 2/2 flying Llanowar Elves that can still attack. Power creep is real. I know that much, but this also kind of like signals that the blue-white skies decks might actually be able to do a lot more than just be one of the better limited piles you can cook up, you know. I think that we not only got this, but we got, you know, the new favorable winds that costs Azorius mana. It's like a gold favorable winds that gives you a clue token or something. And we got Empyrean Eagle in Foundations. So just in terms of Anthem effects, we're getting good stuff for the flying decks, but this is the best possible 1-drop you could cook up for flyers if you were in the lab, like as a designer, like how do we make flyers real? I don't know if you could necessarily go much farther than this without completely breaking everything. And I honestly think the card has a chance at being broken as is. So make a joke about the current state of air travel in my country or move on. Probably safer to move on to a card that I think works pretty well in the Momo deck, and that's Aang. So long as you cast it on your turn, you only get the cost reduction on your turn. I see you, comment section. I know I probably screwed something up earlier, but you're not going to get me on this one. In any case, yeah, I think Aang is easily, if not the second best card in the set, he might actually be the best card in the set. This is somewhere in between a Spell Queller and like a Venser Shaper Savant. That is an incredible couple of cards to be in between, and you might even be beyond both of them. You can take a body away from their side. You can take a spell off the stack. Just no end to the number of things you can do with this, and it isn't like Spell Queller or something, where like there's a cap to the mana cost or whatever. You know, no, just whatever you want, just whatever's happening right now. It doesn't get to happen right now. The card just puts you massively off tempo while adding a really respectable body to the table at the same time. I shouldn't have to explain to you that cards like Spell Queller are good, but if you're new around here, this card is a beast. I think it's easily one of the best cards in the set because it can interact with multiple zones and stuff like that at instant speed that also, again, puts a body on the table with an evasive ability. My goodness. Just gush about the card all day, and I haven't even talked about the entire card. Because, you know, if you're Waterbend 8, you can transform Aang into an 8/8 that'll end up putting a bunch of +1/+1 counters on your guys. A 5/5 trample. He also puts counters on himself. So like, there's another mode on this that honestly feels kind of like a control finisher in a lot of ways. So there's even more you can do with the card than the front face. But I think the front face is all it would need to be one of the best cards, not only in the set, but potentially in Standard. But all that said, there is one more card in this set that I think is beyond even Aang, and that is Badgermole Cub. The other card that I excluded from the Commander video, and some of the people in the comments are like, who's the Badgermole Cub at? Yeah, I know that card is crazy in Commander. Do not get me wrong. There's a lot of amazing setups with it, but I think in Standard, that's where this card is really going to shine. The removal check to end all removal checks, and even if your opponent does get rid of the Badgermole Cub, he's still Earthbend a land, so you can like block with it later or something like that. Get a little extra value out of it. It's not the worst thing in the world, but your opponent basically has to remove this, or you have a chance at having 7 mana on turn 3, and it's not even hard. Just Llanowar Elves on 1, Cub on 2, and I wake up the next morning with 7 mana in my pool after I play a land. So this is just a stupid piece of cardboard that probably shouldn't have been printed for competitive environments. Oh, and by the way, just a hypothetical here. Let's say they do have 2 Badgermole Cubs and you didn't have the removal for that first one, like in that example there. Well, if they have 2, they stack, which again, absolutely, it's frightening. What are you going to do about that? Now I tap for math. And when you get to tapping for math, you know that anything can happen. I mean, the potential for like turn 3 Vaultborn Tyrants just because your opponent curved out is something that we have never really had before. So yeah, maybe this card is good in Standard. Maybe that's why the rampant growth variant showed up in the honorable mentions rather than on the actual list. Maybe that's why the Horror reprint that puts the lands into play tapped. I know, don't have me. The Almost Horror reprint didn't even show up on the list at all. These are great ramp spells that are probably going to see some play in Standard, but beyond all of them, I think is this card that just gives you the most potential ramp in the early game, and that has always been what you have to do with ramp in competitive environments. I don't want 7 mana on turn 4. I want 7 mana on turn 3. And although the difference sounds negligible, it's the most important thing in the world for ramp in competitive environments. So this thing is just like kind of juiced on purpose to be a little bit busted. And we'll see if it's all the way busted and need to be adjusted. Because it is, and it should be. But that is all of my top 10. We didn't get a top like 25 this time around. Even though there were a number of cards I was impressed by in the set, they mostly ended up on other list videos. So go watch those if you haven't yet. But I didn't think that we got like 25 amazing competitive cards that are certainly going to show up in this or that deck to point out. But the cards that we did get that I thought were good are really, really good. Like the top 5, 6, or even 7 of just this list are all cards that are like surefire shoe-ins for standard, guaranteed. So I think that's a good marker for success in a set. You know, we got some good commander stuff. There's some sleepery cards, and there are plenty of things that are going to shake up standard. So I don't know. Altogether, decent looking set to me. And again, the cards that look good look really stinking good. So let me know how you felt about not just this list and my picks and all that, but what your picks would look like, what you think the best cards are, especially anything I missed. But that's all Ski Kowalski, y'all. Just do the YouTube stuff while you file out. Make sure you like the video. That puts it in more people's feeds. You can also subscribe to the channel. That'll put it in your feed if you haven't done it yet. We're trying to get to 150K, getting there slowly. We can get there slightly faster with your help. We'd appreciate it. If you really like the content, you can check out the Patreon to support it. It's really the only way I can stay on YouTube doing this is the Patreon, so I appreciate everyone who's stuck with the Patreon. It means a lot to me, and you guys are doing a lot to support the channel. If you want to be one of the squad, all it costs is $1 a month. Nothing else in the world costs $1 a month. The Patreon channel is the only thing like not affected by inflation worldwide. So I'm trying to keep it low. It's $1 a month to vote on what decks we do around here, not just for Avatar, but for every season. So $1 a month to be part of a fun community. I have one of the best communities ever, probably the best. I'm serious. I actually think it might be true. You go online and everyone's kind of got these like super toxic communities. We don't. I have like the nicest people in the world. So again, you want to be part of a decent community for once in your life because there's no other decent communities on the internet. Check out the Patreon. But anyway, y'all, that's all I've got for this one. I am Dev from The Place. Thanks for watching, Wizards. Spread love and be kind.